Welcome to another episode of Swing State Update. My name is Tyler Boyer. I'm here with
Austin Smith,
the greatest state legislator to ever walk the desert.
That was Russell Pierce.
The high desert. We're happy to have you back here. We got a jam-packed day, and things are starting to roll in the swing states, particularly Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin.
Yes,
and so, again, thank you to everybody who's been a loyal listener to the early version of this podcast. Things are starting to transform, and we've got a lot to go after. Wanted to just take a second and just kind of reiterate what we're doing here. We're here to focus on the stories, the key stories and information, and the calls to action to help win in the key states that we have to win.
This podcast is by the grassroots, for the grassroots, to win.
To win in 2024 and beyond that, and to build something special for a long, long time. We've actually got today, today's the first episode, we've got the studio camera with producer Sadie and the entire studio audience with Brooke and Autumn.
Loyal studio audience.
So Sadie, stay high. You're in here, right?
Hi, guys.
So we are actually going to be bouncing off of them, and then actually moving forward here in future episodes, we're going to be pulling in a lot more Wisconsin and Georgia full-time on this.
The best field staff in the entire country will be joining us once a week.
Our guys that are on the ground there that know everything that's going on.
Way more than the average Joe that's in conservative movement politics.
So we're excited. So today, just as a rundown, we've got a lot going on. We wanted to cover some news that's
breaking,
that's coming through this week, and so we'll talk about that. And then just shortly, just in a few minutes, we'll have Abe Hamadeh, who just announced for Congress here in Arizona. That's kind of well known because he was part of the closest race ever in the history of the state of Arizona in this Attorney General's race, and he was robbed. Because he really should be the rightful Attorney General of this state.
He was robbed because Maricopa County doesn't know how to run an election effectively on Election Day. So it's Bill Gates' fault and Stephen Richards' fault, in my opinion. And Clint Hickman and Bill Gates and Thomas Galvin and Jack Sellers and the Democrat. But yeah, it's all their fault.
Which is, for those of you that spent 24 hours with me and Austin and Charlie and Jack and Benny and everybody else and Andrew, you know all about that. So anyways, jumping right in, let's kick it off. We've got a lot going on here. I wanted to kind of direct everyone's attention to a couple of news pieces. First and foremost, the most important, our Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm wearing the hat right now, the All-American hat. The least likely team ever in the history of sports.
22 years later. It's been a long time coming.
So, but have you seen, I should have pulled this clip. Have you guys seen the clip? Randy Johnson killed a bird with a pitch.
Iconic
in 2001. Video. And then went on to win the World Series.
That's right.
This year, do you know what happened?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you don't know about this?
No.
So this all started up. Zach Gallen, who is one of the starting pitchers for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I know who he is, yes.
He killed a bird this year with a pitch.
Did he really?
And so way back early on, and he's a young guy, way back on, and he's kind of a nerd too, by the way. Zach Gallen is a total nerd, but he's a great pitcher.
Tyler, this guy's a nerd. He plays professional baseball. Did you hear that?
he is. He's like the nerdiest. We have like the youngest, nerdiest team. So Zach Gallen kills this bird early on. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, the D-backs are going to go to the World Series.
Here we are.
And Randy Johnson, great conservative.
Yes.
Great photographer. And bird killer.
You know who's also a great conservative that played for that 2001 D-backs? Curt Schilling.
Curt Schilling, the greatest conservative.
One of the best ever.
Guy. Speaks at some of our stuff.
I can't believe it. I'm so excited. Game 1 tonight.
There's a lot of conservatives actually on that. Yeah, even some of the greats that, they don't come out and talk about. Gonzo.
I believe Gonzo and Bob Brenly was like Republican to center right at least.
A lot of these guys are conservative.
The champions. They won the World Series.
But Gonzo was the winner. Gonzo was the guy that hit the driving run. So yeah. So that's number one. Number two, going into here, this is breaking news, and what with this is the state of Wisconsin is trying to pass some key reforms that can make it onto the ballot for next year. This is a constitutional amendment. So in Wisconsin, just like most other states, they had a real problem with Zuckerbucks
Right.
funding a bunch of election
drop boxes,
policy, drop boxes, everything else, and then they have a big voter ID problem. So they're trying to get that passed, but their governor, who looks kind of like like he might cross dress in his part-time. No, I shouldn't. He's a weirdo,
he's a Democrat. He's weird.
He's a weird kind of Weasley.
He's a liberal. He's weird.
Kind of femme dude. That's their governor. He has vetoed all these election bills that they've tried to pass, but they're just trying to get voter ID passed, making sure that non-U.S. citizens can't vote in Wisconsin. That's kind of important. And then the third big piece is that it would outlaw private funding coming in, like Zuckerbucks and things like that. And so what they have to do is this, Austin. Actually, do you know the process?
So I believe in Wisconsin, the legislature has to pass it twice. So like once one session, the next session, and then they put it on the ballot for the general election, and then it has to be voted up. It has to get more yes votes than no votes.
And the governor can't stop it.
Right. And we have the kind of same process in Arizona, except you only got to pass it once in the legislature.
To send it to the ballot.
Right.
Yeah. So which is what you've done with your ranked choice voting bill, right? So that is important for you to know. In Wisconsin, we've got to give them all the support that we can possibly give them. The legislature is trying to get this passed this session and next session before next year, so it will go on the 2024 ballot.
Yeah, super important, super important. There's a lot of states that are going to be doing this. Obviously, Arizona being the first one, in Wisconsin with split governments.
Yep.
If they have the opportunity to send things to the ballot, they will do it. Georgia does not have a split government. Arizona and Wisconsin do. Those are the three states that we absolutely need to win back the White House, 270 to win. So get it done, Wisconsin.
Last piece of breaking news here before we, I know we've got our friend Abe Hamadeh, I think is nearby or close here. We have some breaking news, and I'm going to tease the breaking news. Turning Point Action is, I'm not going to say the location of where we're doing this yet, because that's going to be the break here, but we are hosting what is going to be the largest conference and convention ahead of the RNC convention. We're going to be doing it about a month before the RNC convention next year. So you're going to hear a lot out there. We're going to cover it here. How do you go to the RNC convention? Who goes to the RNC convention? Well, you know how many people get to go to the RNC convention?
Not very many.
A few thousand people as delegates. So Turning Point Action has decided what we are doing. Charlie, and huge credit to Charlie and our entire team that's putting this together. Lauren Tonsich, that's in our events team, and our entire team that's going to be putting this together. We are going to be hosting what we call the People's Convention. And we're going to invite anyone that wants to go is going to go. We are going to have, I think, our presidential nominee there. We are going to be doing some big things, a lot of big speakers. And so this is going to be happening. We'll have a date and a location coming in the next number of days.
Can you give us a hint of the location?
It is in a swing state.
It is a swing state.
Hey,
that's better than the RNC with their debates.
Hey, the RNC will be doing it in a swing state. We will be doing it in a swing state, but we'll be doing it a month before. And I don't think the RNC is going to love some of the fact that we're inviting everybody. We're letting everybody in. So that's the news. We're going to go right into this. As we've reported here, we have a vacancy that is coming in Congressional District 8.
CD8.
So I want to give a little background for everybody that's listening to this, because we have a lot of listeners outside the state of Arizona. Congressional District 8 was a very competitive race in what was the former congressional district there, and it switched. But it became very competitive in the West Valley. This is the West Valley. So if you know Phoenix, you have the East Valley, you have the West Valley. I'm from the East Valley, which is, real metropolitan Phoenix. And then Austin's from the West Valley, which is kind of like,
it's still rural
subpar
and suburban a little bit. Yeah.
Austin and I always have this debate over what divides the East Valley and the West Valley. Is it the 17 or is it
It's the I-17.
But the West Valley had this big, and I'm just teasing, this big fight, and the winner that came out of it was Debbie Lesko. And Debbie
which used to be Trent Franks. She replaced Trent Franks.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So Trent Franks stepped down, and that's what
right.
created us. And it was a fight. It was a drag-out fight.
It was.
Debbie ended up squeaking it out. She joined the Freedom Caucus, which was the right thing to do. And now she has decided that she is stepping down. And I'll tell you a little bit of background here of why I think she's stepping down. I have heard from many people, and I think we mentioned this last week, that she was traveling around to a couple different people. People weren't super thrilled with how she was voting. And so she's stepping down, and that creates a vacancy. And so one of the first, actually, I think the first person to announce they're running,
exactly the first,
was our good friend Abe Hamadeh, who's joining us. Abe is not only have I known him for a good chunk of time, but he was an intelligence officer. He's a great member of our military, representing our country. He is awarded. He's from Arizona. He grew up in CD8. So, Abe, we're happy to have you. Congrats on the announcement, man.
Thank you both, and congratulations on your new show right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're just trying to do this so that we can keep people up to date, and then calls to action throughout the election cycle. So,
you guys are a good team because I listen to it. It's pretty fun to watch you guys.
Well, Abe, how are things going? What are things looking like since the announcement this last week that you're jumping into this congressional race?
So when I announced, actually, it was kind of interesting. It was on Tuesday of last week, a couple hours right after Debbie Lesko announced her retirement. And that same day, actually, the Arizona Supreme Court sanctioned myself and a few others, the plaintiffs, for bringing up our election challenge lawsuit. I've been battling it in the courts, and to see the courts captured like this has been really eye-opening. And it kind of motivated me to do something about it. We can't let these people win. We can't let this type of mentality that I think has captured so many Republicans, unfortunately, that has taken over a hold of our party. So when I announced, it's been an outswell of support. We've got the endorsement of Carrie Lake, Kash Patel, Rick Grinnell, Robert O'Brien, Adam Laxalt, just so many people. So, we've been pounding it away, and I was down there. We premiered Dinesh D'Souza's movie, actually, in CD8 just earlier this week, which is very eye-opening. I encourage everybody to go watch it. And it really is what's at stake in 2024. I really am not sure people understand where, this time last year, Tyler and Austin, President Trump wasn't indicted, and now he's been indicted 4 times. I think people need to understand that President Trump, next November, if the Democrats win, he's going to be in jail, or if we prevail, he's going to be president. So I want people to understand that, and he's just the first guy. They're going to come after all of us. So, I'm witnessing right now what's happening in our country. The same reason why I ran for AG is we're witnessing a Marxist takeover, and it's been, eye-opening. And I feel like in Congress, I'll have my ability to go in and do my part to give President Trump the backup he needs.
Well, I mean, I can't give you enough credit for what you've done since this election of staying with it. We mentioned before you got on here earlier on that you were absolutely robbed and so unjustly here in Maricopa County, where we're at right now, by a system that has been completely hijacked, as you've just mentioned, by the left. I mean, we're in an all-out war, and it's one of those ideological things that I think actually has a lot of similarities to the American Revolution, because there's a lot happening in society that people don't know about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like inner circle type activity that's happening. This is what happened really with the British and, with those people. And there's a lot of people that came over and they were just trying to live their lives, and all these things were happening to them, and most people didn't know what to do. And there was a small group of fighters who were willing to fight, and people accused them of being radical. And they were fighters standing up for freedom. And I think in many ways, guys like you, Abe, are part of that modern core that's doing the exact same thing. And so, I can't thank you enough for that. And I also really think it's a really big deal that when you see this stuff, it makes you want to run, it makes you know that you need to run for these things. So I totally applaud you for that.
Well, thank you, Tyler. You've been in this fight for a while. I mean, I got involved in the Ron Paul campaign in 2007, and I remember you actually introducing Ron Paul at Arizona State University, probably like around 2011 or something. I don't remember, but we've seen the transformation, right? Where the Tea Party was this rising, conservative group that came out of nowhere, and it really awoken up so many people, and we became the voice of the people. And President Trump really captured that momentum in 2016. And I think it's only gotten stronger. I mean, if you just watch the speakership battle right now, this was a big victory for the conservative grassroots, where for so long, people ask, well, what's the point of having Republicans when they don't do anything? Well, I think we just showed the rest of the world that, we have, although I think we're growing in numbers, we're not the majority, at least in power yet. I think we're the majority of the people, is that we are unifying and we're being united, we're getting this united message and united front out. And I think we're finally wielding that power that the people want us to use, because, this transformation, it really affects the legal system. I mean, here we're sitting in Arizona where all 7 Republican justices on the Supreme Court, these are Republican appointees, and they're not going to be willing to give us a new trial after everything we discovered. And what really, hit it home for me was just earlier this month, they denied our expedited appeal, Tyler.
Crazy.
I mean, Carrie Lake, she had her appeal expedited in January. So just think about that. They are not They know that if we got a new trial, we would win, because this race was 289,000 uncounted ballots. They're doing everything they can to stop it, even sanctioning us $55,000. This is, and I tell people this is, I've gotten decades of knowledge in this last year, and I think I'm ready to go to Washington and bring that same type of courageous fighting spirit with me.
Well, I part of the reason why I don't think there's always a plan. There's a hand that's controlling things, right? And so, it's so interesting. There's no rhyme or reason for why they expedite, on the Kerry side, and then yours, or at least it seems that way.
Right.
What we know is that, I think that they typically, I think I'm going to say this. I don't know if you can say it or not, but I'm going to say it, which is, there's something there, and so they're not going to, and they're going to create problems, right? And so, and when they don't know how to, I think they've had a real problem, Abe, be able to attack you the same way they can attack Carrie. Conservative women, they have a way that they manipulate the news media just to turn conservative females into crazy.
Absolutely.
That's what they try to do. And it's so disgusting what they've done. But I think they look at you, Abe, and they go, we can't attack this guy. He's a minority. He's a veteran. He's done other things. We can't mess with that. So we just got to pretend like he doesn't exist, and we got to try to kick this can down the road as far as we can. And I think that's been the strategy that they've legitimately taken in their dark rooms and their smoky back rooms. So
it brings up a point, Abe. I want to ask you. It's like, so you get down there to Congress, you're elected. And this is something we ask everybody that we've ever met that runs for Congress says they're the most conservative person ever, and I know you're conservative, Abe. But how do you prevent yourself from being co-opted by the lobbyists in Washington D.C., the war hawks, the other members? Scratch my back here, I'll scratch your back there, because the vast majority of the American people, conservative voters, are tired of that. So how do you ensure the voters of CD8 that you go down there and you fight for them, and not who the speaker is or who the chairman is?
Absolutely. I think what I've been put through in the last year, not many people have ever gone through in their lives, where you have the establishment, you have the donor class, you have the entrenched political class tell you to drop your lawsuit, just move on. Don't upend the system. I just got off the phone with my attorneys today, and we're still continuing that battle. And it's because I know what we're fighting for, truth and justice. So, I think this last year has proven myself how I'm going to be, as an elected, whether it was attorney general or now for Congress. Yep. I am undeterred from these Marxists, from this controlled opposition. And, I use that term controlled opposition because so many Republicans, they don't realize they're controlled. What makes you controlled is that you're scared to say the things that need to be said and do the things that need to be done because you're scared of the media. You're scared of the pushback from your lobbyists, like you're talking about. So I've proven myself just over this past year, everything I've gone through it. I haven't cowered. I haven't ran and hid. I've been taking it head on and exposing the system. I plan to continue to expose that system through the litigation efforts and through my run for Congress. So, I think it just goes to show you how much of a threat I am to the system. Yeah. I don't think they expected us to fight like this. I know they didn't expect us to fight like this. They thought we were going to run out of money. They thought we were going to go hide and go to the establishment and ask them for, what can we do better? We know what happened. Everybody knows. The Democrats know what happened. So, when I'm in Congress, I will always remember why I'm there. And I'm there because I know, when I first ran for AG, we were not taken seriously. I had 5 other primary opponents who are, very well qualified, nice people, but they didn't know what time it is. the hour is very late. Yep. And, it's like what you talked about, Tyler, about the American Revolution. I mean, this is a defining moment in our nation's history, truly. It's going to determine. Just look at look at the people graduating universities right now. These pro-Hamas people who are, putting Taliban flags right now. It is, and these are the ones who are graduating. But the ones who are going after Trump in these lawsuits, those are people who are already well established. So think about how radical this new wave is going. So this is a complete cultural revolution that we're facing. And what I'm honored to have, to be in the fight with you two, because I know this is our generation's fight, and I'm glad to know I'm not alone. We have to do everything that we can because America is worth fighting for, especially at this dire hour.
Well, Austin probably can't touch on this subject as much because he's, serving the state legislature. But I can. And, Ben Toma is jumping in this race. What do you think about Ben Toma?
Ben is he's a nice guy. He was born in Romania, escaped communism. But I think, what you look at, what they do when they have power, that's how I judge people when they've been tested. And, in 2020, he opposed the audit efforts, and he also was asking for DeSantis to run just as early as May of this year after all the indictments coming out. So I don't think, he's not what we need right now. I think right now we need tough, bold, courageous leaders who are willing to buck the establishment and buck the status quo. So I don't know if he's announced yet, but I know some others have. But, my focus is going to be on the Congressional District 8 and going back to, where I did grow up. I went up to Happy Valley, Stetson Hills, and Terramar School, and I was one of the first people to enter those schools, actually, because it was such a new development area. So I'm excited to get back.
You're so old in terms of Arizona, time. Right?
The Valley.
People don't realize the Valley's only literally in parts 20 years old. So you can be Abe's age and literally.
Yeah. I graduated first from this school.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I plowed this land. We laid the cornerstones.
I knew the farmer that was here before this land.
The desert.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's so cool about Arizona. It's so unique. It was the last of the continental United States, and we've been growing, and I want to make sure that look at what our state leadership, and what angers me so much is not the Democrats. We already know they're against us. What angers me is these Republicans who have betrayed us, and and that's how they're able to win, is when they get enough Republicans to have these infighting. So I keep trying to tell folks, we got to be united for 2024. It's not just my race. I mean, President Trump, we need him to win, obviously, because if he doesn't win, just imagine the carnage that's going to inflict on us. I mean, just look what we've witnessed in the last 3 years. So, every race is so important. Carrie Lake, we got to get her elected. But, I think people are waking up very quickly to what's happening to our country. And I credit a lot to Elon Musk buying Twitter. I mean, imagine if Elon Musk didn't buy Twitter. This time last year, he still hadn't closed the deal. And imagine if he did. I think a lot of Republicans would have won. But Tucker Carlson getting fired from Fox News, where would he have gone? Right? They would have taken away his voice. But now we have Twitter, and I think that's been really a game changer for so many of us in this movement. Where there's when we started this back at Tyler, you remember when we were fighting the establishment, we were probably 5% of the party, right?
Yep.
I think now it's probably gone up to 70s, maybe even 80% if you include Vivek's and even DeSantis's number. So I think right now the Republican Party is completely awakened. There's still about 20% that kind of want to live in a fantasy. I think they've got a psychosis, to be quite honest. And actually, studies do suggest, when you're talking about how the media influences certain types of people, there's been studies that do show that propaganda works best on actually well-educated Republicans. Yeah. And the media is totally, that's why the messaging, threats to democracy, abortion, that they know exactly the type of audience they're targeting. They're very smart, but we got to be smart and counteract that. Well, we want to be cognizant of your time. I just want to point out one thing about Ben Toma for those that are listening, to follow up. And I want to and create this juxtaposition here of somebody that cares about Arizona, and loves conservatives. The party's changed so much, like Abe brought up. Do you know what Ben Toma did the first moment he got into the speaker's office? He goes into a leadership meeting and he says, "We're not letting anyone from the Free Enterprise Club in here. We're not letting anyone from Turning Point in here. We're not letting
and I don't know what he knows about anything, but like I don't go down to the legislature, and I'm not like lobbying people at the legislature.
You are not a lobbyist.
But that was
thank
like,
goodness for that. You are not part of that.
I'm not a
crew.
registered lobbyist. The Free Enterprise Club, I think, is great people, by the way, do a wonderful job. But that was the first thing out of his mouth when he became leader. And like, again, that's not the kind of guy that you need in Congress. You need a guy that's like Abe, who's fighting the good fight. I want to bring up this last thing, Abe, and I want to, while you're here, I think this is really important because we've heard this thing coming from, that minority part of the party at this point, which is the establishment, what I call the Republican. I don't like to use rhino all the time, but
I just call them squishes. They're squishes.
All the squishes.
They're squishes.
One of the things is we keep hearing over and over is like, oh, well, conservatives lost this last election in 2022 so bad. And again, the thing that I want to point out is you had very little help and support. I mean, people have no idea the lack of support that you received, that Kerry received, and when you were running your statewide elections. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I do want to bring up and just turn people back to when the establishment was running everything. They lost 2 Senate seats for us. They gave up not just 2 Senate seats. They gave up also McSally's congressional seat. So we gave up a congressional majority in Arizona. We gave up both Senate seats because of one lady that was pushed by that whole arm of the party. That's how they lost, the faith of the electorate. And I'll kick back even further. Do you know how badly Janet Napolitano beat, Matt Salmon and Lynn Munsell?
Not
way worse, So it's so funny. These people they're saying things. It's like you guys weren't there to help.
No.
Had they done anything at all, we would have won everything. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, as we go into. I know you're going to be fighting that fight, and like people that are attacking you all the time with all of that. I'm sure that's going to come from that sector, that minority of the party.
They're never going to vote for me anyway, to be honest, at least in the primary. I mean, they want to live their lives like there's no election issues, that November 8th of last year was just fine. I mean, we made a lot of outreach to some of these folks in the general election, Tyler and Austin. And, I had meetings, canceled from higher people that you probably know in the executive offices all across the state. So, I know the game that they're playing. I know. And I know, people talk about this uniparty, and some people don't like that term. Well, it's real. It's real. Let's be honest. It's real. It happens, and
so
they're willing to make deals with the Democrats to prevent people like us who represent the people. And it's so unfortunate because our country going down this path, and I truly mean it. I mean, I'm the son of immigrants. My family's fled places like Syria. Family's fled Venezuela. I mean, I know how this goes, and it's. Many Americans might not, but it's quick. It's quick once it starts, and it's already started. That's why we feel attacked. I mean, that's why the left has now, changed biology where we can't even define what a woman is. I mean, they're doing it. They're trying to attack our senses, our common sense right now. And sadly, it's working on a lot of people, just like what you saw with these pro-Hamas protests going on. I mean, I think that's been a big wake-up call to a lot of liberals even. So, like someone like Bill Maher. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little bit more optimistic, but I think what concerns me is that I really want Republicans to know what's at stake November 2024. And I don't want them to be black-pilled. And I know a lot of people who have been, say, hey, the courts are captured, which, I can't disagree with them there. A lot of institutions are captured, but we have hope as long as we continue to fight. That's the only thing they can't take away from us is our will to fight. So that's why I'm in this battle right now, because I really do think that our generation's at stake, whether we're going to live in a Marxist, communist type of dystopia or whether we're going to restore the America we love.
Well, and this is the thing, too. This is what they're so freaked out about, the Uniparty, is that we're on such an upward trajectory with not just recapturing the party, but recapturing America for our side, away from these people, away from special interests,
absolutely,
away from the people who work together to to scratch each other's backs, but not actually do work for the people. And that's what they're so freaked out about. And so that's why, the animosity that comes out right now against a guy like you, Abe, you almost just got to look in the mirror and smile a little bit, because if it wasn't such a threat, they wouldn't be so vicious. So I know you're going to have a lot of great days ahead on the campaign trail. We're really looking forward to seeing you out there and working hard.
I'll see him a lot more than you, because it'll be out my neck of the woods. So
yeah, I don't go to the West Valley.
Yeah, you don't even go out there.
I don't go to East
I'll
LA.
see Abe a lot more than you.
I don't go to East Los Angeles. So. I know, I'm just teasing. No, but thank you for your time, Abe. We appreciate you joining us. I hope everybody knows where can people follow your campaign, and what can they do to support you?
You can go to my website at abe4az.com, abe4az.com. And of course, they can follow my Twitter, my very active Twitter at Abraham Hamadeh. And just to finally end it on a funny note, Tyler and Austin, you're talking about like what the media labels us all as. They call us extremists. They've called me a white supremacist. It doesn't matter what what color you are or anything. They're going to come after you. So I tell people, you know what? We're either going to be jailed or we're going to have a free country. I mean, that's kind of the trajectory we're going on. And I encourage everybody to go watch Police State, Dinesh D'Souza's movie. I mean, that was really eye-opening, and it was fantastic. And it really motivated me about why we're in this fight right now.
Well, this is you brought up, they're going to label you and be so nasty. Austin's a 5th generation Arizonan. I'm a 7th generation Arizonan. You've been here forever. We have all these people coming from literally out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. That are dropping into our state, like including Stephen Richer, by the way. This is how right? Like they just literally show up. They're not from here.
Thomas Galvin's not from here. He's from like New York.
They get all their money from like 2/3 of their money from outside of the state. They're getting no support locally. They're not talking to locals. They're not even trying. And this is what we're up against. It's a big fight. So again, God bless you, Abe. We're behind you. 100% in this fight, in this battle that you're fighting for the will of Arizona and America, and anything that we can do, we're excited to be there with you. So good luck, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that's good.
Well,
that's
cool.
Good. Abe's a great guy. This is going to be a very interesting congressional district run. This is, for those of you who don't know, CDA is a Republican district, so it's pretty much just going to be primary winner take all. And Abe is the first one to formally announce that he's running to replace Debbie Lesko. There's been, obviously, conversations about Ben Toma jumping in. And I did see a tweet yesterday from Punchbowl News saying that Debbie Lesko will endorse Ben Toma getting into this race.
I tweeted out about that today, too. So it was basically, a lot of people thought that Kimberly Yee, who's the treasurer, who
lives in that CD,
top vote getter, which, by the way, that's not unusual for treasurer because no one cares about treasurer.
Didn't one year, like, the Democrats didn't even put up a candidate?
Yeah, no, Jeff DeWitt.
Jeff DeWitt
had the first
they don't care.
first Republican ever break 1 million votes because they didn't run anyone against him. So, anyways, everyone speculated that Debbie, who's BFFs with Kimberly Yee, was waiting and seeing, Kimberly, do you want it? Do you want to do it? I'll endorse you. And then she said no, because it's speculated that Kimberly's going to run for governor again, which she was the first one out last time. Yeah. So because she was polling so poorly, but she's a good person. I like Kimberly.
Me too.
I hope that she'll be a little bit more conservative in the approach that she takes. But so it was speculated that she was number one in line, and then number two was Ben Toma. And Ben Toma is run by a guy that's a political consultant named Constantine Curiard, and Constantine has been on the good side of things, like with our friend Austin and some of our West Valley.
I work with CQ, so
and he's been on the wrong side of things, like national popular vote and things like that. And in this case, I think he's running Ben Toma. So. Hopefully, I'd be happy to have CQ on. I would love a Ben Toma versus somebody debate, but somebody else just announced yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So who else is in this race now, Austin?
Our other good friend Blake Masters,
so
which we kind of knew was going to happen. Like, there had been floated around the last couple weeks or so, last 2 weeks that Blake was interested in. And getting in, and full disclosure.
So there's more to this though. So there's more to this. So Blake had already been spending a lot of time in the West Valley. Why?
Well, Paul Gosar is out there, and he's not going to challenge Paul Gosar or anything.
So Paul Gosar
may not run in the next couple elections.
Paul's district is like all of western Arizona.
That's Mojave County.
That goes all the way down to
Yuma,
but also into the valley.
West Maricopa County.
Into the Phoenix
Buckeye,
Valley.
Surprise, Goodyear.
Yeah, so where you are, where you serve.
Where my legislative district's at. And so,
Blake's been hanging out with you a lot.
I've had conversations, and this is why I like Blake. Blake's been a friend of mine for a couple years now. I actually was friends with Blake before he decided to run for Senate. I've been a good friend, and he's been talking about potentially running for Congress in the West Valley, and here we are now a couple weeks later after Debbie Lesko's announcement for retirement.
So, and full transparency too. So Ben Toma was thinking about before this happened because nobody expected Debbie to quit. So Debbie quits. Before this, Ben Toma was thinking about running for county supervisor, which would big boos because I want everyone to understand, all the conservatives hate Ben Toma. Okay, so
it's not the most well-liked grassroots
Austin's not going to say it. I'm going to say it. Everyone hates Ben Toma.
I work with Speaker Toma, but I know he's not the most liked grassroots
His
guy.
brother's now the majority owner of Runback, that is the private company that counts your ballots that everybody's ticked off about. We're going to get much more deeply into that, I'm sure, with this race and everything else. Abe was thinking about running for county attorney if everything proceed with this, because there was about 9,000 ballots left to be counted, and the courts weren't counting them. Mm-hmm. If they count those, he's attorney general.
That's right.
But we know, again, when
Maricopa
people talk
County
about
slow rolling this,
we talk about things are rigged and the uniparty and Republicans working against you and your interests. There's a lot of those happening in the judiciary. There's a lot of those that are friends with guys that are in power. So, I think a lot of people were surprised when he immediately jumped on this, but, his heart was there, and so he jumped into it. Blake has been thinking about running for Congress since the day he conceded the Senate race, and the conversation has been, Paul Gosar might retire. So are you spending time in the West Valley? He spent a lot of time in the West Valley. Yeah. Spent a lot of time with you, I know, in Surprise.
Yep.
And in that area. So
and we're going to try to get Blake on next week too, because he formally announced yesterday.
Yeah. So he just barely got in, jumped in. We weren't even sure that was going to happen. But, I think the right thing, a lot of people have asked me, I've gotten pinged probably 100 times. What do you do? What do we do? I really like Blake. I really like Abe. And my hope is that they won't split the vote, right? And a conservative will win amongst them. And there's a couple other people thinking about getting in. But if the conservatives all split the vote, that could create a pathway for Ben Toma, which I think will drive the conservatives crazy. And actually, that's a lose-lose-lose all the way around, because if Ben wins and all the conservatives split the vote, typically the grassroots get really mad at the people who split the vote.
Yeah.
And so that's even a risk for Abe. It's a risk for Blake.
Well, and this is so everybody should learn and understand, Blake Masters is not the enemy. Abe Hamadeh is not the enemy. If there's another conservative who I won't say gets in is not the enemy. I hate seeing those kind of attacks already. It's pointless. But from day one, just understand the grassroots want a conservative fighter, and they will definitely be upset if that vote split. But Blake Masters is not the enemy. Abe Hamadeh is not the enemy. These are two good conservative guys, and I appreciate them both.
But other people might be the enemy.
Yeah, potentially. And there's another conservative who was running. There's another. Here's some insider baseball. There is another conservative, 90% going to jump into this race, and I like that person too.
He's not. He's also not the enemy.
He's not the enemy.
It's Anthony Kern.
I wasn't going to say it, but
State Senator Anthony Kern.
I've been in the battles with Anthony Kern at the legislature this year, and we're both in the Freedom Caucus together. And
Anthony Kern,
he's conservative as all get out.
Anthony Kern was at the Capitol, so he's
and a fake elector.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Real Republican electors. So he's a good dude. This thing is going to be a battle that hopefully they can gang up on the right people. So and then work it out. And I told them that all of them have talked to me this last week, and I said the same thing to all three of them. And I said, hey, I just hope that you all get in a room together and you figure this out, so you don't create a pathway for Ben. That's my personal opinion, And again, I'm just saying that because I don't think Ben is.
Well, here's
I don't think he's an upgrade by any means to anything. I think that there might be a place in public service for Ben. I have never seen the guy reach out to the grassroots once, and that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And I'm going to just say this too. There's lots of moderates that reach out. Debbie, by the way, I've been in Debbie's home. Debbie's invited me to her home when her health wasn't great and and she was working. I don't always agree with Debbie, but she invited me to her home. I don't agree with her endorsement of Ben Toma, but she invited me to her home and she would talk and she'd pick up the phone and she'd show up to stuff, and she wasn't the most enthusiastic on those things. She wasn't like Andy or Eli or these other guys, but or Paul, right? But Gosar, but she at least would talk to you. Ben is going to be a step down.
Well, I'll say this too, is that Arizona is very lucky. We only have 9 congressional districts. 6 of those are Republican. 4 out of those 6 have been Freedom Caucus guys, and one of them was Debbie Lesko. David Schweikert left because 5
out of the 6 were.
Schweikert left because he blamed it on a stupid reason. But the grassroots.
Schweikert left because he took McCarthy money.
He did, and he tried to blame it on and David Schweikert tried to blame the Arizona Freedom Caucus. That's why he left. I'm like, it's a bullcrap excuse. But anyway. The grassroots are very involved in selecting our representatives in Arizona. That's from the legislative district level and the congressional level. And they're going to want – I know the people in the West Valley. I know Paul Gosar's district well. I know Debbie Lesko's district well. They are going to want a Freedom Caucus member. They're going to want somebody who will go to D.C. and draw the line in the sand for the big fights. I know those people. I know those PCs. I recruited a lot of them.
So let's say the conservative movement just completely rejects Ben Toma, which I think they will. And again, this is a good microcosm for a lot of the races happening across the country, by the way, folks, because there's a lot of Trump people who are now competing against each other.
Yeah.
And then you have this non-Trump person. So like what's happening right now is you have possibly 2 or 3 Trump people, right? Or America First people running against each other. And then one outsider. And now the outsider. So I actually have a prediction that you're going to see a lot more outsider non-Trump people win, because the movement is so strong and they're not coordinating with each other, and there's only one primary.
You got to do that. We have to do that.
And so this is my advice to everybody. You got to hear this. You got to coordinate together. And that's right. I told all these guys, I was like, guys, there's only one primary. This is not like, there's not like an America First primary and then the Republican primary.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to primary yourselves and make determinations on who's the person that's going to move forward, because otherwise you're going to open up a pathway for a guy that
so what people
is
should
a downgrade.
What people should know is that Abe Hamadeh was endorsed by President Trump, Blake Masters, and Anthony Kern.
All three of them.
Yeah. Endorsed by President Trump.
They were on the team.
Yes, they were all Trump endorsed.
So let me ask you this question. Let's say that the movement rejects the non-Trump, the anti-Trump or an anti-America First guy. In this case would be Ben Toma, the example, and it comes down to like Blake and Abe. Sadie, who do you think wins in a cage match, like a boxing match between Abe and Blake?
That's so hard that's like such a hard question.
Blake's got that long arm. He got that long reach.
No, I want to know.
Blake's got that long arm.
I mean,
Blake
if we,
I don't know.
We could have the opportunity to force them to fight each other, like physically.
A lot of America's problems in Congress probably would be figured out if they could just box for 10
Slap
minutes.
each other around.
Just 10 minutes in the ring, right on the floor of the House.
Abe.
Go. You got 10 minutes.
Have you seen on Rumble how they have the professional slap competitions?
Yeah.
So, you guys have seen these TikToks, right? Where it's the guys slapping each other. Have you seen this?
Maybe Abe. Abe was in the military.
Wait,
so
you
I
think
feel like he works out a lot.
So you think that Abe can beat
Blake does CrossFit, so he's probably in like really good cardio shape.
That's a good point.
It'd be a brawl. We're going to get AZ Republican Media Matters like, swing state update. Members of Congress should slap each other to figure out the problems. That's how annoying.
So we're gonna do slap challenge, slap competition between the two.
I think what
like
what Ron Swanson says is like, in order to pick our leaders, they should have to go through like a decathlon, maybe like a hunting venture or like manhunt.
That is so true.
Like a decathlon, like running, swimming, shooting. That's how we should pick our leaders, and they all just sit in one room after and decide who to nuke.
Do we have Blake's announcement video?
Let's play Blake's announcement video.
Let's throw that up.
We need new leaders. people who haven't spent their lives in politics. That's why I'm running for Congress, to fight for Arizona's 8th, because we can control our border. We can build an economy that actually works for the middle class. And we can make sure that Arizona is the best place in the whole world to live, work, and raise a family. Join me.
Okay, new segment that we're going to do through the Swing State Update through this next year, and we'll maybe do clips, and maybe not on the show, but we'll do clips of it. We're going to break down campaign videos.
I like that.
And we're going to comment on them, and we're going to all evaluate them, what we like about them and what we think sucks. I like Blake's campaign videos because he involves his family. So I like that. But we'll talk we'll do breakdowns.
You should play mine. Mine was really good.
Yours was really good.
I had a 2-minute version and an 8-minute version. Anyway, well, we need you guys to go to tpaction.com/PC. You're not actually in the Republican Party, Tyler.
We got to jump in real quick. We didn't even get to the political maps on Georgia.
Oh, that's right. We got to talk Georgia really quick.
So we got to talk Georgia. We have just a few minutes left in the podcast. I know we went along with Abe, but I think it was important because actually I think it gives context to what's going on in the country. So let's jump into Georgia real quickly before we end up. So I don't know if we can throw this up on the screen, what's going on.
But so essentially a federal judge says Georgia's political maps must be redrawn for the 2024 election. I think that's like unheard of, isn't it?
So no. So it kind of is not. So this is the fight that we're in, people. This is the absolute fight. We've talked about this a little bit on some of the early versions of this podcast here. If you do not know what's going on, this is Eric Holder came out of the Obama administration. He was the attorney general for Obama, right?
Right.
He came out and his entire life's mission was to manage redistricting, was to take redistricting and make it his life's mission to win the country over, specifically Congress, but win the country over by owning the redistricting process. Because what does this do? When you own the redistricting process, what are the two things involved in redistricting, Austin? What are the two big maps that most of these redistricting commissions and redistricting ventures have within the states?
Congressional and legislative.
That's right. So congressional legislative lines. So congressional lines determines the control of Congress. This is where, like, we talk about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering started, this is where it happens, is in the redistricting process. Yep. This happens every 10 years at the beginning of the decade. So the first election that happens is the 2 year. So in 2010 it was 2012, in 2020 it was 2022. And if you control this process, you control Congress, and you control the legislatures. And if you control the legislatures, you control what happens with the governor's office, everything.
Elections.
All the laws that get passed. So basically, this is what runs our whole country, and people don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's involved. And I can tell you this because in Arizona, nobody was involved.
No.
Like, nobody was involved on our side. But Eric Holder spent tens of millions of dollars going in, challenging, filing lawsuits, fighting, pushing back. And the federal government is involved with throwing out maps and challenging maps and looking at these things. And so it's not a huge surprise that in a key target state, Georgia, they're wanting to completely redraw the maps all over again. Why? Because it's too Republican there. It's not helping them. Why does it matter? And when you got a friend in Brad Raffensperger, to the Democrats,
and Brian Kemp, who don't fight back against this stuff, they just get run over, like roughshod, right? So you've got a situation now in Georgia where they're wanting to completely reassemble Georgia. Why does this matter? I'm just going to give it to you quick. If they can make competitive maps for Congress and legislature, they can get donors to give money to those races. That money filters its way up, right? So if you can make the argument to donors on their side that you can win a legislative race, every dime that goes in gets you more votes that work their way all the way up ticket. That's how they win. Yep.
And so right now they're looking at this, they're going, ooh, things aren't good enough in Georgia, right? Way too deep red of congressional districts. There's no fight right there. So they're going, oh man, long term, this isn't good for us because we're not putting enough money into Georgia in order to win all the way up tickets. We're going to lose statewide races to conservatives. We're going to lose the Senate race to conservatives because they're going to come in and get funded really well in these districts.
Yeah, I mean, and look, this is obviously the left's all-out assault on elections all the time, every single state. They're just bankrolled with money. They have more money than they know what to do with. That's why it's so important for everybody on the right to be completely on our game about this stuff. And it doesn't help when you have a Brian Kemp and a Brad Raffensperger that are just literally rolling over. I like to think of them as like the eat me last Republicans.
Yep.
They're like, if I'm just playing nice with them, I'm gonna save my own skin. And Brian Kemp, what did he do recently? He just called for a special session to redraw these maps. Didn't even fight back. Now, the Georgia Senate leader, he did say we need to fight this in court. The Senate president in Georgia is willing to fight this. Brian Kemp was like, nope, let's give it up. Let's all just redraw these new maps, which is totally such a disservice to the great people of the state of Georgia.
And here's the thing. People are going to be like, well, he had no option. He had to send it. Guys, there's not even a statement from our team. And thank you to Courtney, who's been on top of this, and the rest of the team in Georgia. I know Orion's sick, and we got a couple other, obviously the entire team in Georgia is on top of these guys, like no other team.
Yep.
But, there hasn't been to this point since yesterday, there hasn't been an announcement, anything like, well, because the governor could come out and he could say, yeah, this is baloney.
Where's the Republican Attorney General to be like, no, we're not doing
this. This is baloney. There's no fight.
No, like where's the Attorney General saying, yeah, we're not doing that?
That is how you know they're totally in bed with the left.
Absolutely. The governor, the Attorney General, the Secretary of State haven't been like, no, we are not doing that. Take a hike. But now they're like, okay, we'll go back into session. Fight.
Georgia activists, I've talked to a couple of them, have to be losing their minds right now.
Yeah, why would they do this, man? It's such a disservice to the people of Georgia, and it's like such a contempt that they have that for grassroots conservatives.
This is like Doug Ducey 2.0.
Yeah, this is such Koch network bullcrap. Like roll over and just die.
This is Doug Ducey all over again. Redo. Yep. Okay, let's jump into this thing here. Just some reminders. Sadie, how important is ballot chasing?
It's the most important ever, especially winning this next year.
Is that true? Studio audience?
100%.
We need. Everybody needs to know, if we don't chase ballots, if we don't ID ballots full time, we're gonna lose this state. We're going to lose Arizona for good. We're going to lose Georgia for good. We're going to lose Wisconsin permanently for good. And it's very simple. I want to explain this real quick for everybody before we have to go, and I'll kick it over to you, Austin, so you can give everybody the rundown of what you can do to get involved, the call to action for Turning Point Action. Full-time versus part-time ballot chasing.
That's right.
I saw an absolute moron post on Twitter this last week that has no idea what he's talking about. An absolute moron. Guys that have been consultants for a long time.
Oof.
Total moron. Go, I don't understand why Turning Point's saying it's so expensive and we need to spend so much money in order to compete with the left. Guys, the left is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to put full-time bodies in your neighborhood to chase every ballot that doesn't usually vote.
Low propensity voters.
They call them low propensity voters. They're people that don't vote. They just don't vote. Some of them are potheads. Some of them hate the government. Some of them hate their elected officials. Some of them don't trust the system. Some of them are so burnt out.
Same.
Some of them work 90 hours a week and they don't even have time to cast a ballot. Some of them are too old. Some of them are too young. Some of them are just too busy because they've got lives to live. But you know what Democrats are doing? They're funding full-time people in your freaking neighborhood to go chase all these ballots.
Yeah.
They knock on your door. They knock on your door and they chase every single ballot. And so I saw somebody like, oh, well, I don't understand why we need so much money to fund full-time people. It's because that's what the left is doing, people. We have to match it. It's like going out. I'll use a football analogy because we're in the middle of football season. It's just like literally sending a high school team out, a part-time high school team out against an NFL team.
Gonna get creamed.
You are not. It's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
Did you play football?
Bad. I did.
What was your position?
Outside linebacker, and I was second team All-State. That's pretty good.
Would you like to go up against the NFL?
No, not a chance.
Part-time? No. That is what you are asking us to do. That is what's happening right now. That is why. So we have to build the NFL team on our side. We have the talent.
Right.
We just got to pay them.
Right.
They'll show up. So, a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand why you're wanting to pay people full time to go ballot chase. Because I want to win.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure we get more ballots in the box. And a lot of other people have said, our more conservative friends, and rightfully so, well, I don't really like mail-in ballots. I don't either. We don't either. I don't either. Guys, we're not talking about trying to encourage people who vote on election day to vote early. And that's like where, again, there's the nuance that's there, right? Do you vote on election day?
Yes.
Sadie, do you vote on election day?
Well, I've only voted once because I'm 20.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the last presidential election, I was 17.
You didn't vote in the last presidential election?
Too
No,
young.
I wasn't allowed.
What is
Too young.
Democrats would have
Yeah, they would have made you vote.
They would have made you vote.
They probably did vote for her.
You
Sadly.
You probably actually voted for Joe Biden. Did you
No.
know that? She's laughing.
No.
But
that's
no,
reality.
No, we're just teasing Sadie, but the producer Sadie. But this is the situation is that if you do not get full-time people out doing this, we're not going to collect all the ballots.
That's right.
And we're not trying to get people who vote on election day like me and you, right? We're not trying to get people to change the way that they vote. That's awesome. Go vote on election day. It's better to vote on election day. It's more secure.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch it actually go in and you can make sure it happens. I don't like putting my mail, but we're talking about chasing people who are registered to vote by mail early who are not voting. It is much better to make sure those get in because you're now throwing a total curveball to the left as they're trying to go through their manipulation schemes and try to control the election. Because you know what they're not expecting? 300, 400, 500,000 more Republicans voting than what they're anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
Because their whole game is they're like, we'll try to figure out, and we know exactly how many ballots are going to happen because the Republicans are lazy and they don't throw curveballs at us ever.
Yeah.
You got to throw the curveballs. We got to get out there. And so we got to have the full-time people getting a little low propensity. It's not going to hurt, folks. It's not going to hurt.
No.
And I can tell you this too. Democrats aren't spending $100 million in states like Arizona just for their health because they can flip a switch and win the election. They're not. If they could, they wouldn't spend that kind of money on it, and they're spending it.
Yep.
So
So you got to go to tpaction.com/chase the vote. Get signed up with us. Get ready to learn to chase the votes next year. Tyler, everything he's talking about, we need to get your information so we can be prepped with you next year. So tpaction.com/chase the vote.
we will have jobs.
We will have jobs.
Lots
We're going
of
to be
jobs.
hiring people for this.
Quit your whatever job you're working in right now. Plan
Come
on
work with
quitting
us.
and come work for us. We're going to be paying a valuable wage to come chase ballots full time.
Yep. tpaction.com/chase the vote. You also need to be a precinct leader. You need to be a precinct committeeman if you're in Arizona. You need to be a precinct delegate. If you're in Michigan, you got to be a precinct chair. If you're in Georgia, we need you to be a precinct committeeman. You're not actually in the Republican Party unless you're a precinct committeeman. tpaction.com/precinct. If you're mad at the way the country's going, you're mad at the government, you're mad at how elections are run in this country, that's great, but you got to channel that energy into something. You got to be a precinct committeeman to actually have some effect on that stuff. tpaction.com/precinct. But we also have our coalitions. If you're a farmer, you're a rancher, you're an educator, you're Hispanic, Latino, you're an African American, we need you to be a part of our coalition of getting like-minded people like yourself in a community to chase ballots with us, to be impactful in your community, to actually, lead your precinct. We would love to have more farmers and ranchers to be precincts. So go to tpaction.com/coalitions. Be a part of our coalitions and figure out more that we have there. And last thing, but not least, because there was a new speaker's race, Tyler, we have a new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson from Louisiana. We need you to go to tpaction.com/scorecard. Find out where your members of Congress are with TP Action values, with actual America First constitutional conservative values. Is your member of Congress, a patriot? Are they losing some patriotism? Are they kind of wonky and all over the place? I call them, being erratic, some squishes. They don't actually take principled votes. So if you want to know where your member of Congress is at, go to tpaction.com/scorecard. Episode 9. This is great. Today, Diamondbacks, game number 1 against the Rangers. I'm excited.
The World Series starts, and a swing state has to win it.
It has to be Arizona.
It has to be Arizona. We took out. We had a swing state World Series. Atlanta had a shot, got beat by swing state. Philadelphia Phillies. Boo, Phillies. They made it through. We beat the Milwaukee Brewers. We had a swing state series.
Yeah.
Arizona and the Phillies, and now it's swing state Arizona versus the winner of the Texas rivalry, and Rangers.
I only have one request: is that the Diamondbacks don't let Katie Hobbs throw out a pitch.
Look,
I will lose my mind.
That better not.
I hope not.
The owners.
I hope not.
The owners are Republican. I don't love him. He's a Republican, but I will tell you this: there's one thing that's working in our favor. The Rangers play in Arlington, and we know not a lot of wins happen in Arlington.
Is that a slide at the
Cowboys?
Yeah, I bet it was. Thank you, guys. Episode 9.
God bless.